Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something really practical for, well, a lot of you educators out there in U.S. universities. Specifically, navigating that path from lecturer to senior lecturer. We're talking about those non-tenure teaching-focused roles mostly.
Yeah, it's a really key step, isn't it? And I think the first thing everyone needs to grasp is that this kind of promotion, it's not automatic.
Definitely not.
It really requires, a plan, a strategic approach.
Exactly. So that's our mission for this deep dive, really. We want to pull out the key steps, the main insights from Jared Kanize's notes on building a winning case for promotion.
Sort of a roadmap, if you will.
Yeah, think of it like that, a shortcut to figuring out what actually moves the needle.
And the absolute foundation for all of this, the place you have to start, is knowing your own institution's rules.
Right. Can't skip that?
No, definitely not. And the names can vary, right? You
Yeah.
might be called instructional faculty, teaching faculty, professor of practice. It differs.
So step one is?
Find that faculty handbook or the promotion guidelines, whatever they call it. And you need to read it carefully, like really dissect the criteria.
Look for the specifics.
Exactly. Things like the typical time you need to be in the lecturer role. Often it's around, say, 5 to 7 years. And pay close attention to the weight given to teaching versus service.
Versus maybe professional development or scholarship.
Precisely. You need to know the recipe before you start baking the cake, so to speak.
Okay, so let's say you've found the guidelines, you've read them, you know the expectations. Where do you actually begin building that case? Teaching excellence feels like the big one.
It absolutely is. It's usually the core requirement for these roles, but it's more than just, being a good teacher.
You have to prove it.
You have to prove it with evidence, robust evidence. Think about your student evaluations and not just the numbers, the quantitative scores.
The comments, too.
Yes, the qualitative feedback is crucial, and you want to gather these across multiple years, different courses.
To show consistency, or maybe improvement.
Both. You're looking for patterns. Sustained high performance is great. Clear growth over time is also very compelling. And look for themes in those comments.
What do you mean, themes?
Like, if students consistently mention how you explain complex topics clearly or how accessible you are, or maybe the impact of a specific assignment you designed, those qualitative snippets can be really powerful.
Oh, I see. So it adds texture to the numbers. What other kinds of teaching evidence should people be collecting?
Peer observations, they are incredibly valuable.
Getting colleagues to watch you teach.
Yes, formally. Don't just hope someone drops in. Request formal evaluations. An outside perspective from a colleague can really validate your strengths.
Okay, makes sense.
Also, look at your own materials, your syllabi, your course assignments. How have they evolved?
Showing you're not just using the same notes year after year.
Exactly. Do they reflect new approaches, new knowledge in the field, maybe feedback you've received? And then there's student learning data.
Like grades.
Sometimes, but it's often more about demonstrating progress towards learning outcomes. Think pre- and post-tests, maybe student portfolios showing development, or data from rubrics you use for assessment.
Okay, so linking your teaching actions to actual student learning gains.
That's the goal. It shows intentionality. It's not just what you teach, but how you teach it, and that your choices are making a difference.
Right, so are we talking about specific teaching methods here?
We are. Are you using evidence-based practices, things like active learning techniques, or maybe you flipped your classroom?
And technology use, does that count?
Oh, definitely. But it needs to be meaningful integration.
Yeah.
How are you using the LMS or multimedia or other tools to actually enhance learning, not just for show?
Developing new courses, too. Or overhauling old ones.
Big contributions, yes.
Yeah.
And crucially, how are you supporting diverse learners? Are you thinking about universal design principles to make your course accessible?
Inclusive pedagogy.
Exactly. Showing you're conscious of and responsive to the varied needs and backgrounds of your students, that's increasingly important.
Wow, okay. That's a lot to document under teaching excellence. So once you have all this evidence, how do you package it? The teaching portfolio comes next, I assume.
Yes, the portfolio is where you tell your story. Think of it as your professional argument for promotion.
So what are the must-have sections?
You definitely need a strong cover letter or what's often called a promotion statement that summarizes your whole case up front.
Like an executive summary.
Kind of, yeah. Then a concise teaching philosophy, maybe 1 or 2 pages. What are your core beliefs about teaching? How do you put them into practice?
And then the evidence we just talked about.
Absolutely. Summaries of your student evaluations, maybe charts showing trends, and
Right.
definitely pull out some of those impactful student quotes.
Let the students speak for you, in a way.
They can be very persuasive. Then you need details on your curriculum work, any pedagogical innovations.
Like the new courses, the tech integration.
Right. What did you do? Why did you do it? And ideally, what was the result? And don't forget professional development.
Conferences, workshops.
Yep. Any conferences attended, certifications earned, workshops on teaching, pedagogical training listed all. It shows you're committed to improving your craft.
Any optional extras for the portfolio?
Sure, if you've won any teaching awards, that's obviously a big plus, or received grants for teaching projects, or maybe teaching-related fellowships. Include those too.
Okay, that paints a clear picture of the portfolio.
Right.
Now, teaching is key, but you mentioned service earlier. What does that involve, typically?
Right. Service is almost always part of the expectation, even in these teaching-focused roles. You're expected to be a citizen of the department and the university.
So, committee work.
That's a big one. Department committees, curriculum, assessment, maybe hiring committees, but also look beyond the department.
University level.
Yeah, things like the university senate, maybe serving on task forces or committees focused on things like diversity and inclusion initiatives.
What about working directly with students outside of class?
Definitely. Student advising is often a major component. Mentoring students, perhaps supervising undergraduate research if that's relevant, even mentoring junior faculty colleagues can count.
Organizing events.
Sure, if you take the lead on, say, organizing a guest speaker series or a student research symposium, that's valuable service.
It seems like you should aim for things that connect to your teaching.
That can be a smart strategy. Serving on the curriculum committee makes sense if you're invested in pedagogy. It shows a deeper engagement than just, filling a slot.
And documentation is key here, too, I bet.
Oh, absolutely. Keep meticulous records. Every committee, every task force, every advising load, track it all, semester by semester or year by year.
Even the small stuff.
You never know what might demonstrate a consistent pattern of contribution down the line. Don't discount the informal things either, though they're harder to document.
Okay. Now, Jared's notes also brought up scholarly or professional work. How critical is that for a senior lecturer role?
It varies a lot by institution and even by department sometimes. It might not be a strict requirement everywhere for this specific promotion.
But it can help.
It can definitely strengthen your case.
Yeah.
It shows you're engaged with your field beyond just the classroom.
So what kind of things count here? Publications?
Publications or presentations, sure,
Mhm.
especially if they're related to pedagogy, how you teach, or maybe developments in your specific discipline that inform your teaching.
What about, like, developing new course materials?
Yes, curriculum development projects, especially if they're innovative or shared with others, and conducting research on teaching.
That's so OTL, right? Scholarship of Teaching and Learning.
Exactly. Systematically studying your own teaching practice to improve student learning. That's highly valued in many places.
Grants for teaching. Professional memberships.
Yep. Grants specifically for instructional initiatives, or even just active membership and participation in relevant professional organizations. It all adds to the picture of a committed professional.
So it's about showing you're still growing, still contributing to the broader academic conversation.
Pretty much, even if research isn't your primary job function. Okay, so we've covered teaching, service, potential scholarship. But there's another layer, isn't there? The sort of human element.
Ah, yes, mentorship and visibility. Because these decisions are made by people, ultimately.
Exactly. It's not just about the paper record. So getting senior colleagues to look over your materials before you submit, that's smart.
Getting feedback.
Constructive feedback, yes. And talk to your department chair regularly, not just at formal review time, but have ongoing conversations about your progress, your goals.
Getting informal feedback along the way.
Right. And get involved beyond your department. Participating in campus initiatives, workshops, things like that. It raises your visibility.
Build your network.
It does. And consider presenting your work, maybe at on-campus teaching showcases or even regional or national teaching conferences.
Showcasing your innovations.
And building your reputation as someone invested in teaching excellence. It helps people know who you are and what you contribute.
It's about making sure the review committees know your name and associate it with good work. Okay, so when does all this actually happen? What's the typical timeline?
Well, the eligibility window usually opens up after, like we said, maybe 5 to 7 years as a lecturer.
Well, sometimes earlier.
Sometimes, yeah, for really exceptional cases. But the actual application process usually starts about a full year before the promotion would take effect.
A year in advance. Wow.
Yeah, because there are multiple levels of review. It typically goes to a department committee first.
Your peers.
Right. Then the department chair makes a recommendation. Then it usually goes up to the dean's office.
College or school level.
Mm-hmm. And then often there's a final review by the provost or a central university-wide promotion committee.
So several hurdles to clear.
Definitely. And you should expect that your materials will be reviewed internally by peers. You'll also likely need to ask specific colleagues to write letters of support for you.
Choosing those letter writers carefully, I imagine.
Very carefully. People who know your work well across teaching, service, maybe other areas, and eventually you get the formal decision. Hopefully good news, but either way there should be some feedback.
Right. Okay, we're nearing the end of our deep dive here.
Yeah.
Any final sort of top tips for success for someone aiming for a senior lecturer?
Okay, top tips. Number one, I'd say, is ongoing record keeping. Seriously, don't wait until year 4 or 5 to try and remember everything you did. Keep track constantly.
Start now.
Start now. Second, tailor your materials. Use the specific language and address the exact criteria from your institution's guidelines. Don't submit a generic package.
Make it easy for the committee to see how you meet their standards.
Precisely. Third, be specific and, wherever possible, quantify your impact. Don't just say you improved something. Show the data if you can.
Like the example you gave earlier, participation increased by 20%.
Exactly. Numbers talk. And finally, be proactive. Don't necessarily wait to be tapped on the shoulder. If you think you're ready, if you meet the criteria, start the conversation, inquire about the process.
Take ownership of your career progression.
Absolutely.
This has been incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
So if we boil down, the main takeaway seems to be that getting promoted from lecturer to senior lecturer isn't passive. It's very much an active process.
It really is.
It needs that proactive, well-documented approach.
Hmm.
You got to focus on proving teaching excellence, making solid service contributions, maybe adding some scholarly work.
And doing it all within the framework of what your specific university actually values and asks for in its policies.
Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
So, as a final thought for everyone listening, maybe take a moment after this.
Mm-hmm.
Think about these different areas: teaching, service, scholarship, visibility. Which one could you maybe start focusing on or documenting better right now, today, to build that foundation for the future?
That's a great point. Start laying the groundwork now.
And of course, for anyone listening who might be looking for lecturer positions in the U.S. right now, definitely check out the listings on academicjobs.com.